Okay, well today I'm going to glass bed this Remington 581. I bought a 98% inletted stock a while back. It's black walnut. The old one had a birch stock on it. This is really quite an old gun. And it wasn't looked after that well, but it's something to do for the winter. This particular gun only has one stock screw. And that's going to make it really difficult for bedding. So I've convinced myself over the last several weeks that there's only a couple of places I'm willing to bed it, and the barreled action fits really nice in this stock. So what I'm going to do is I've relieved a little bit of material in the front, about an inch. I've relieved an inch where the receiver and barrel meet. I've relieved it just slightly on the front side of the receiver. I cannot bed it at the tang, which I wish I could, because there is not a bolt holding the receiver to the stock. So that would just literally hover there anyways. So it does have a nice fit, so it's fitting good on the wood part of the tang here. So that sits nice. So what we're going to do is I bought a bedrock glass bedding kit, and that's what we're going to use to bed this 22. And I'm not doing this necessarily to get 100% accuracy out of it. I just wanted to make sure everything fit 100% perfectly. So I've never even shot the gun. I have no idea how the gun shoots. This is, like I said, a winter project. Yesterday I found an old Remington metal butt plate, and I put it on there so you can see how beautifully that turned out, eh? Like, it's just perfect. I still have some stock work to do. I've got to sand this down a little bit more, and then we're going to true oil it. But now is the time to put this bedding on it. There was a time to do that. So that's what we're going to do right now. Okay, we've got our barreled action off, and what I'm going to do first is I'm going to fill this area here where the magazine goes in, the two cross pins, this inlet, and this inlet with putty. And then we'll put release agent on it. And the reason I had to stop the filming was I had forgotten, this is a new stock, right? So I'd forgotten to put the Sling swivel studs on. And the biggest reason is I had to inlet this, of course, to put the nut in there. And I'm just going to put a piece of putty in there and leave it forever. The only reason is I don't want the epoxy, the bedding material, to go inside that hole, and then that'll end up welding my stud to that nut. You know, in the event that I need to change out that sling swivel stud, I wouldn't be able to turn it out. So if I put a little piece of putty in there, then I can turn it out. So that's what we had to do. It only took a couple minutes, so they're on there now. So the bedding kit supplies you with putty. And basically what we want to do is fill voids with putty. Okay, so we still have to fill that little hole there. I don't think I care about that. I don't really want bedding material in here. Okay, so we got all the voids filled. And then what you do is you have to put release agent on that, right? Now it won't stick to it, and then of course you got to take all the putty out. So we'll put this over here. What we have to do here is we're going to fill this void here and create a little dam right there, right? So that the bedding material, just a light film, can sit the bottom of the receiver area where that stock screw goes through. Then we're going to put a little bit of bedding material in here. I've relieved about 1.5 inches in front of the receiver. We're going to put a light thin film of bedding material along here, and I've relieved the stock channel, the barrel channel right here, this last inch. Okay, So what we're going to do now is, first of all, I'd mentioned, and let's not forget to do this, we're going to put some putty in this hole. And we don't ever really want to get back into this hole. There's no reason to ever get back into this hole. But if for some reason that and we're not going to put release agent on this. All we want to do is build our little dam back here. So we're going to fill up this part right here. Get a base started. Barreled action in here in a minute and just see if we're creating ourselves a little nightmare by putting this in here, but I don't think we are. What I'm doing is trying to create a situation where I don't have to try and get this apart ever. Give the, where you tighten the stock screw, lots of rigidity. That everything fits the way it's supposed to. That get to right there, right? So the next step is the most critical, I would think, and what we're going to do is we're going to put some release agent on a lot of the barreled action. And the first thing we're going to do is we are going to put release agent on these threads. All you need is a film of release agent, you know, like you can't really build it up. One that I've heard of a lot is Kiwi Clear shoe polish. It seems to work good. I've always just used kits. So. You have got to put release agent on everything, including those threads in there. Including this putty. So we haven't forgotten anything here, right? We got all the putty done. And 2/3 of the way up the receiver. Now we're going to do the barrel. There's nothing tricky about this barrel. Okay, there you go. So release agent's on. What we're going to do now is create a situation where it's going to be easy for cleanup. this is masking tape. Happens to be good masking tape. I'm going to prepare for the worst. Now that's just for overrun, right? Now remember what I told you, that I do not want any material coming out of here. That's absolutely against what I'm trying to get accomplished here. We will clean that up. That's one thing we're going to look for as we do this. Okay, so that really looks like it's ready to go. We've protected the exterior of our wood stock. We've got this magazine well filled with putty. We've dry fitted the barreled action, and really the next step now is to mix up the epoxy, and then we're going to put some in there. I mixed my hardener and resin together, and it mixes well. They've given you all the cute little things, you know, the little cup, the little wooden sticks. It all works good. You don't have to worry about looking for something to stir it up with. They also provide a little product here, micro balloons, and what that does is it makes the epoxy not quite as runny, so you can see what's going on here. So, and I think you can mix it up to 2 to 1. I'm okay with it the way it is. Also, they give you little dyes. So this one, for instance, is brown. The more you put in, the darker it gets. And this one's black. I don't want to see any of my bedding material. So I don't care. First thing we're going to do is we're going to dribble a little bit in our barrel channel. And we know we need a little bit right here, right? We know we're going to need some right there. We don't want to put too much in because we don't want the barrel to sit up higher than it has to sit. Just dribble a little bit in here, and then we'll go back and make it look good. And we know we've got a relieved area here. Right? Out to a 1/2 inch. Now what we really don't want to do is put too much in here, because we do have those 2 pressure points, but I still want everything to sit perfect. Okay? Then what we're going to do add a little bit to this area here, because we did relieve a little bit here, right? What that's going to do is it's going to seat the bottom of the receiver where the stock screw goes through, and it's just you know, so you don't compress the wood any more than you have to. So I'll drop this in like this. That looks good so far. Now this is why we put release on everything. You know, just in case something goes sideways, right? This is wiping right off because that release is on. This is nice stuff to work with, you know, if you've ever worked with 5-minute or 1-minute epoxy, oh my God. Nightmarish stuff to work with. Well, it depends on what you're doing. You would never use 1-minute epoxy to do this, that's for sure. All we're going to do now is we'll just turn this around here so we can see the other side. And we still have to put our surgical tubing on the front end of this because we want that solid, right? Start tying it up right here. We cross it like that. There you go. What we've done now then is we've glass bedded this 22 where I think it belongs to be bedded. And we're going to leave it about 24 hours and we'll take the surgical tubing off and take the screw out and hopefully it comes apart, and we'll let you have a little look at how the barrel channel turned out and how the receiver area turned out where that one stock screw is. So pretty simple really. You just have to do one thing at a time and do it right every time. And okay, well, it's been about 28 hours since I put the barreled action into this stock and glass bedded it. So hopefully it comes apart. I know the stock screw is going to come out because after about 8 hours you're supposed to turn it out one turn and then turn it back in one turn. And I actually turned it in to 25 inch-pounds. Now we'll take this off. Okay. There we go. Okay. Now that's what happens when you release agent on properly. And all the putty's in the right spot. Turns out just awesome, eh? A little bit of cleanup to do on the barrel and the barreled action. So what we'll do now is we'll clean this up, and then we're going to show you how everything turned out. Oh, it turned out beautiful. Okay, so what I did was I just started taking the masking tape off this one side here, and it left it looking just beautiful. So here's that barrel channel, and it's completely bedded. We have two areas here that we bedded a little thicker, so right here, right? And I also bedded it about a dime's thickness here, and a dime's thickness right here where that stock screw goes through. Our little dam held, so we've literally created a cheap pillar bedding here, I guess, if you will. So that's epoxied there and on both sides of the receiver, and then the back where the tang sits, we left that. Because again, we don't have a stock screw there, right? So this looks absolutely fantastic. It came apart nice with a couple of wraps, and that means we did everything perfectly. So there it is. I got to clean up a bunch of stuff, and when I get done cleaning it up, we're going to take another look before we move on to the next step, which will be sanding. I cleaned out the putty, and it looks really good. So there's the barrel channel. So I'll clean it up. I got some more sanding to do before we put true oil on the stock. Turned out really, really good. And the same with the barrel. I've got to blue the barrel, so I'm going to have to steel wool it and degrease it. So what little bit of putty's left in the little nooks and crannies, and there isn't much, I'm going to blow it out with compressed air and some brake clean. There you go. That turned out absolutely fantastic. And you do have to lift that barreled action straight up to take it out, and straight down to put it in. That's how good it fits.